Third down and 20.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 35 of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast. I'm JT, joined by Lounis and Frank, and we are coming off our big draft live streams, our back-to-back days, or 3 days actually for Lounis and Frank. Multiple gallons of milk were drank, lots and lots of eggs were cracked on our heads. But I had a lot of fun. I think everyone else could say they did. It's something that I probably don't want to ever do again. But yeah, so thank you everyone who did show up to us. We're on Twitch streaming right now. If you're listening on YouTube, hey, podcast, hey. But guys, the draft just happened. I guess we're gonna get into it, further. But initial takes, anything really crazy stick out to you guys?
I think for you, Tony going at pick 20 is pretty wild.
Put some respect.
That wasn't.
He was going to be a first-round pick either way. If the Giants didn't take him at 20, Jacksonville was going to at 25.
Yeah, that wasn't really crazy to me. Like, I kind of knew Tony would be like a first rounder. My issue with that though is like, I just don't think he's good. Like I assumed he would get first, maybe early second round draft capital, but I just don't think he's like an actual good wide receiver. So it doesn't change anything for me that he got drafted in the first. To be honest, I kind of expected him
to. Okay.
Here, before we start getting to the draft, let's just talk about the quick news and notes because we're gonna have a ton of shit about the draft.
Okay. So probably the biggest news that happened like hours before the draft and like started off small and then just got big out of nowhere was Aaron Rodgers is incredibly unhappy with the Packers front office and he wants out allegedly. Like some insider was saying like 95% chance he doesn't return. I do think that's a little, like the media hyping it up, trying to get some more stories printed out. But what would you guys put the odds at? Like, is Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay?
So I don't know if you saw the report that he wants the GM fired.
I did.
See ya.
That's what I was gonna say. For me, he just made things easy for Green Bay. I think Green Bay should be happy that report came out. If all they have to do is fire their GM to be able to keep Rodgers happy in Green Bay, you do it. You still get to keep the coach that's led you to the what did they make 2 straight NFC championships with the floor, or did they make it only to the second round 2 years ago? 2 straight NFC championships. Been a very successful team, and all you got to do is fire the GM. It's not like he's like some like genius, brilliant GM. Like for their first 2 picks last year were kind of useless. Neither of them got on the field as a contender. You drafted a backup quarterback who never played in a 3rd string running back. Only to re-sign the running back that he was supposed to replace to a big contract. So I'd gladly move away the GM. I think if they end up trading Rodgers and keeping that GM, it's a huge mistake. Although I am keeping my hopes alive for a Rodgers in Vegas dream. That would be amazing. I would be a huge fan of Rodgers in Vegas with John Gruden. So that's what I'm rooting for. But I think Green Bay should fire their GM. That's what's going to fix it.
Dude, not even that. I think that, like, if I were, I don't think the Packers have an owner, but let's just say they did. If I was the Packers owner, that GM would have been sent packing already. He would have been out of there yesterday. Dude, I don't care. You haven't done shit yet. Like,
exactly.
To be honest, you've done a bad job up to this point. I've seen some people say like, oh, well, Rodgers, they made 2 straight NFC championships. They have good players. He's complaining too much. Like, I think that's the problem, is that you are, for the most part, the current best quarterback, or at least top 3, because you can definitely see Mahomes, Tom Brady are definitely up there. But, I mean, even before Mahomes entered the league, it's not like Aaron Rodgers wasn't a top 3 quarterback, and you really haven't had tons and tons of playoff success like these other top 3 quarterbacks consistently have had. I mean, the only other 2 who are just undisputed, like insane, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, these guys all have or look like they're going to win multiple Super Bowls. Dude, we could patch together a defense with some old vets, kind of like with these prove it contracts. Guys trying to championship hop. The fact that the Packers aren't doing that while they have like the great quarterback, and they're just doing this conservative mindset. Oh, well, we can't mess up the future, but at the same time, you're not going in now to compete with all these other teams that are going in now. So I mean, I don't blame Rodgers for being pissed off. I would want to go to a team that's ready to risk everything to get a real ass run, 3-4 years, 2 years, ready to win Super Bowls.
So, real quick, just one side comment. I completely buried the fact that Lounis is wearing a clown face. That was from our draft live stream as one of his punishments. But going back to it, you guys were talking about the other quarterbacks, right? Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Like, I think it's hard to argue that like Aaron Rodgers' team is like much better or even like comparable to the type that Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady have currently, like the team built around him. Like when we're looking at Tom Brady's defense, he's got like 4 elite weapons on offense. He's got a very stacked defense. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes, like elite weapons on offense, a pretty stacked defense as well. Like when you look at Aaron Rodgers, like, yeah, there's Jair Alexander on the other side, and there's a couple good linebackers, but like for the most part, the Packers defense doesn't really compare to the Bucs or the Chiefs.
It doesn't, but at the same time, I thought their defense put them in a really good position to make it to the Super Bowl. I don't like in that NFC Championship game, they forced a good amount of turnovers in that second half.
Yeah, Tom Brady didn't look good.
Yeah, it would be nice if off of those
this
turnovers.
is JT's point. That defense played good, but did you see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense did in the Super Bowl? That's the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that Super Bowl was a blowout. You know what I mean? Like, I think if Green Bay's in the Super Bowl, like that would have been a really close game, and it's up to Rodgers versus Mahomes at the very end. And it would have been a lot easier if instead of drafting Jordan Love, you drafted, I don't know, a T. Higgins, a Brandon Ayuk, Chase Claypool.
That was the thing. I saw the quote. The GM was like, "Oh, we really wanted like CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk, but they went before us. So, oh shucks, we couldn't get a wide receiver."
It was CeeDee Lamb and it was
ever.
It was CeeDee Lamb and Jefferson.
You have
Jefferson.
You have months to prepare for the draft, saying, "Oh well, these other teams that just clearly had better plans and executed it way better.
We want.
Rats! They just got them. You know, we tried." Dude, like you were in like the most competitive industry. That is not an excuse for poor performance. GM for me would have been gone yesterday. Aaron Rodgers has every right to complain. I understand the Packers are a good team, but there is a clear difference from being a good team and a great team. Take Aaron Rodgers off that team and see what happens.
Yeah. It's also like it's like the Giants GM Gelman being like, "Oh, we want to take Joe Burrow, but he got drafted ahead of us. Like, what are we gonna do?" Like,
I mean, at pick 27, we were looking at Kyle Pitts, and it just didn't work out. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me. I was telling Frank about this yesterday. Urban Meyer went to his front office like a month or two ago, and was like begging, asking them. He's like, "Hey, so is there anything we can do? You guys can do to help me come away with Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts?" The front office was like, "No, we can't." And he was like upset about it. Like he really wanted the front office to get them both.
Dude, I mean, I don't blame him. That's probably the first thing I would say too.
All right. Real quick so we can wrap up the Aaron Rodgers talk. Like, give me your top. Like, what team is Aaron Rodgers on at the start of the season?
The Broncos. You know it's going to fucking happen because they always do. But I would want to see the Giants. I don't think Gettleman has the balls to, though.
Oh.
I'm rooting for the Raiders. I will cry if he ends up a New York Giant. Dallas fans will probably cry harder.
No, you won't. Dude, because you realize that we have the Hooters bet, which directly benefits you if the Giants win the Super Bowl.
Yes, but that's
Put
gonna
your
hurt.
allegiance aside for
gonna
the
hurt.
greatest night at Hooters, Lounis.
No, it would be fun, but that's gonna hurt. I don't want to see the Giants just stun on the Eagles like that much. I need whoever wins the NFC East just to lose in the first round again, like last year.
Dude, you
then
guys
it won't
probably
be the
want to
Eagles.
lose.
No, I'm saying the Eagles aren't going to win the NFC East, but I'm just saying whoever wins it, I want them out in the first round. But so I'm rooting for the Raiders because I think that'd be so much fun. And I'm interested to see how we would do with those rookie receivers, Brian Edwards and Ruggs and Darren Waller. But if I had to guess, I think he's going to be in Green Bay. I just don't see how they can fuck up the situation that bad. Like if it comes down to the GM, fucking fire him. It's hard to fuck that up.
I want to agree with you, Lounis, but like for the interest of it, I am going to say the Raiders. I just think, we've seen the Raiders drafts the previous years. It's hard to judge what they did this year, even though I think we all kind of said Leatherwood was probably reaching the first round. But like in previous years, their drafts weren't that great. So you might as well just trade your picks and get like the known guy in Aaron Rodgers. So like definitely going to help you more.
Dude, can you imagine that division? You have Mahomes and Rodgers in the same division.
Yeah, jeez.
And
twice a year.
My sweet prince Justin Herbert's
and
there
Herbert.
too, right? Like in a pretty stacked offense now as well.
And then Drew Lock.
Speaking of that division, we can get into the sad news.
Yeah, so it came out today, actually, kind of like an hour ago before we were recording. Jawan James tore his Achilles, which is like the big injury so far of the offseason. Which just started
like the Brandon Brooks of this season.
Yeah. So terrible news. It happened like off facility too, which means he might not get his full contract.
He's not getting it. He's missed out on $10 million, which is tragic. I feel that's so rough.
Yeah, that's terrible.
$10 million guaranteed gone.
I mean, I think that just already hurts. This we're gonna even parlay into the next segment too. We could talk about this. It's gonna hurt whoever the quarterback is. And we were talking about the Broncos before stream, and we're going to just jump into our next segment now and just parlay into this. We were talking about the repricing the obvious winners and losers of the draft, right? And one guy that came to mind, actually two, were Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. There was an internal debate here over which person we think is starting, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. I was firmly Drew Lock. I think Lounis is firmly Teddy Bridgewater. I think Frank, you were leaning Drew Lock, right?
I'm firmly Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, well Frank's just out there, Aaron Rodgers. But prior to the draft, I think most people kind of expected the Broncos to take a quarterback, and you saw Justin Fields drop to them. Like they didn't even have to move up for him, but they just passed and went corner instead, which I thought was a weird move. I personally would have taken quarterback, but whatever. So
he's going to be part of the Rodgers trade.
Yeah, that's one part though. Like, what we have now, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. What are you guys like? Personally, I don't want to buy either of these guys, but I'm sure there are people that are like, hey, I need a quarterback that could be a backup. What's the price for the Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater kind of combo? Who are you buying? / who do you think will have more value? What are we doing with these guys?
Well, Drew Lock, I'm really not paying anything for. Maybe in mid third, late third. I don't know. Like Teddy Bridgewater, if he starts the entire year, if I'm a contender and say I have like an injury at quarterback, and I'm like, I need to find the cheapest starting QB that can just last me this season, I can maybe throw like a late second, which is a slight overpay, but that's what you just kind of have to do in that situation, because if you only have two QBs and one gets hurt and you're just trying to find the cheapest guy. But I'm really prefer because I don't think either of them are going to start next year. I think the starting QB for Denver is not on the roster. I mean, starting QB for Denver next season is not on the roster. But I would say that's probably the price for each of them. I really don't like Drew Lock. I really don't.
I think the price that it's worth to sell Drew Lock for, like the price that you would have to pay, because he does have upside and clearly the organization still believes in him, is at least to a certain extent, is whatever Kyle Trask is going for, or maybe Davis Mills, wherever they're going in your rookie draft, I think is generally around the price for Drew Lock, because I think that they have similar upside, and Drew Lock was a higher draft pick than all those rookie quarterbacks. To me, I think that Kellen Mond is a little bit of an exception just because A, I like him a whole lot, so I'm just going to value him more. And B, I think he's just easily in the best scenario, other than maybe Davis Mills. But Davis Mills, to me, like, he was the third guy picked, I think, for good reason. Dude, Teddy Bridgewater, ooh, geez. I think we're talking late third at most. I think that, I don't know, just because right now, it's actually a good time to buy Teddy Bridgewater right now. If you desperately need a quarterback as a contender and you have some late round picks to fly, because if he does end up starting a good portion of the season, then his price is going to jump up to like a contender second or an early third or something. But right now, I think a late third in a rookie draft, very late third, maybe even early fourth is the price for Teddy.
My point on this is, I think you're actually better off, like, if you're looking to buy these quarterbacks, I think you're better off just saying, never mind, I'm just going to go out and get Ryan Fitzpatrick, because their keep trade cut has Drew Lock slightly above Ryan Fitzpatrick in value and Teddy Bridgewater slightly below. Like, they're kind of in sequential order there. And I just think they all have the same amount of years in the league left as a starting quarterback, and that's one. And
the thing is, too, is that Drew Lock's upside is priced in still, which I do not want to pay for Drew Lock's upside right now.
Yeah,
I don't care about his 4 touchdown games against crappy COVID defense.
Wasn't it just once?
He had a really good game his rookie year against Houston. I don't
that was
remember
just once
another good game.
He had a couple good games last year, but I'm not paying for that. Like, that's priced in right now. I'd much rather have all the rookie quarterbacks than Drew Lock.
Same. The rookie quarterbacks that you mentioned, I would take over him. If I'm a Drew Lock owner, if I could get 312 for him, I would accept it. What was I gonna say? I'm taking any third for Drew Lock. His next career start, he's gonna be a career backup. He'll be backup somewhere. So, I mean, he might have, like, some fab value to whoever owns the starter.
It might depend who's on the board for me in this year's draft for that.
So we're going to do just a little teaser. We're going to do a mock draft coming up soon when we get Jake back. And
stops running from the smoke.
Yeah, it's looking like that end of the third is – depending on who you're in a draft with, it could get pretty rough for me. Like, I'm not really in love with most of those players, and then like the fourth round even worse. So
yeah, I'm not
I guess I'd rather either. Yeah, I know. I guess I'd rather have Drew Lock than like that late third, but I don't know if you're gonna get someone to pay you like 306 kind of. I might just re-roll and go for a third next year, because like we were saying,
re-roll.
If you can get a future third for him, do that too.
Yeah, because we were talking about, Frank, right? There's like a record number of players that went back to school this year. Like, there probably is going to be some talent that drops lower into the third, albeit I don't know if next year's class is going to be as deep as this one, like talent wise, like good talent.
How's next year's class supposed?
Let me just throw out this stat real quick.
I don't think it's as strong a QB class, but I think the running backs are really good. I'm not sure about the receivers.
For whatever the top end talent is, let's just disregard that. In terms of just the sheer volume of players, this is for the entire NFL draft, so not just the skill players. There was about like 700 to 800 players that got agents before the draft process. The average is usually anywhere from like 1,200 to 1,400. So that alone, there's like 20% less players, something along the lines of that had agents, which that obviously does not, it's not every single player in the draft that has an agent, but I think it does give you a slight rough estimate of the amount of players that went back to school because they had that extra year of eligibility to be a super senior. Dude, we had our draft doc. Like, I have a list of 20 some odd receivers that I was planning on being in this class that all went back to school, and 20 of them are like super seniors.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know me, I'd hate those guys, but I do think some of those guys are going to get overdrafted and then bump some of that talent down. So I'd rather just re-roll. That's
Let's
a
go
lot of
biggest
time spent.
winners and biggest losers.
Yeah, that was a lot of time spent on just Drew Lock. So we're going to try and get some prices out for these winners.
No, let's do biggest winners and losers of the draft.
Okay.
The
Rookies. Okay.
Yeah, for rookies.
So I think perceived value-wise, I'd say probably Trey Lance is one of the top winners. Like San Fran gave up so much for him, but to be honest, I think that's perceived value. I think that's a little bit of bait, like as Frank likes to use though, because I kind of pictured Trey Lance in Carolina. That's kind of where I like envision him going. So the difference between Carolina and San Fran is not a big difference for me. His value doesn't really increase. I'm still keeping him at my QB3. But I think we were seeing rookie mock drafts prior to the draft where Lance was falling into the mid to later first, like 106, 107 range. Now he's in the conversation for 102 when then you have those nuts being like, oh, he's 101. He's got the rushing upside. So I think he's the one that's probably.
Yeah, I don't understand that argument. Like Trevor Lawrence didn't just rush for 10 plus touchdowns.
So when we're talking about that, like, you know, a jump from 107 to 101, I feel like is a much bigger jump than even like 301 to 112, in my opinion. So like, I think Lance is probably my biggest winner. How about you guys?
I agree with you about Lance is a huge winner, and I think. Well, here's the thing with me for Lance. If you had him 106, 107 and jumped him off the 102, it's kind of crazy. I had him 103, and I think he has a fair case for 102. I understand it because of how pro QB friendly that 49ers offense is. But going to my next winner, I feel like you have to mention Michael Carter in that situation for winners. He's kind of entering a completely new coaching staff. They didn't really have Michael Pirine was there, but he was what, a 5th round pick last year?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, didn't do too much his rookie year. I still like him, but I don't think he's an every down back. I think Michael Carter is going to have every opportunity to be just kind of like the full-time starter there. They selected him. People thought he was going to go in the 3rd. He ended up going beginning of the 4th. So I like his situation, and you've seen his fantasy stock go up like crazy. Like before, he was viewed as kind of a what was he before the draft? Maybe like a late second.
Consensus somewhere around there. I had him consensus 206, and I think he's now flown way past that.
Yeah, now he's like one of the he's like one of the top picks.
I can get his exact consensus pick in a second here.
What I was saying is now he's like one of the very top picks of the 2nd round.
Oh shit, he was 212 consensus.
Yeah, I've seen him in the 1st round, like 112.
And Trey Sermon was 211, so those guys have jumped a lot. I've been in a rookie draft just now where they went 201, 202, so they've just completely flopped spots in the 2nd round.
Yeah. And it's because just because of the opportunity. I was gonna mention Michael Carter, and sorry if Trey Sermon was gonna be the person you say, Frank.
No.
Okay,
I think he's a clear winner, though. I mean, we can throw him into the Michael Carter bucket.
Yeah,
definitely a clear winner.
Mostert is kind of aging. I don't think he'll be the starter after this season, and we're all big fans of Trey Sermon. And the 49ers are never gonna have a thing where he's like a power horse, like 25 carry game back, but like he'll be someone who gets like 18, 19, 20 touches as the primary back in that offense. That has shown any of their backs they plug in there end up being productive. They put in Jeff Wilson, he's productive. They put in McKinnon, he's productive. Literally anything. So Trey Sermon going there is a really nice fit for him also. And I'm not surprised that those two have jumped a ton. They've jumped in my rankings also. I don't know if I'm taking them as early as like 201 because there are a lot of receivers I like there more. But definitely in like the mid-2nd.
Well, another guy I want to throw in there as well is Elijah Mitchell because he was, for me, he was a sleeper. Now I think, once again, that his consensus ADP has jumped even my valuation of him. I like what I saw on tape from him. I went over him on the draft stream a little bit, but just quick synopsis, he's got good balance, good hands. Okay, so my winner... This is going to be very biased here. It's going to sound very biased, but the two guys the Steelers took, I had already, like, late in the draft process, I started watching a lot of the tight ends, And I think the clear and obvious tight end 2 for me was Pat Freiermuth, a.k.a. the Muth. Pittsburgh is just such a phenomenal situation for him, in my opinion. I still think that the Muth is at a pretty decent price, just because I really do think that, like, compared to Cole Kmet last year, that the Muth is a better prospect and really does have a shot to climb his way out of that wasteland. And then obviously Najee Harris. Najee Harris, he did definitely bump his stock up for me a little bit. I think that his ADP is still too high for me to take, but because he landed in Pittsburgh and he got that great draft capital, and I can really see how they're going to take advantage of his skill set, that I think it's a little bit better taking him with a top 5 pick than it was before the draft.
This isn't one of our list of topics, but I do want to touch on this with you guys really quick, because this has kind of been a debate. This wouldn't be the Superflex 101, but standard. It seems to consensus Najee Harris is now the standard 101 favorite, or just non-QB taken. At first, I thought, in Pittsburgh, yeah, but the more I think about it, I kind of still want to say Devante. And I want to hear both of your cases, because I know both of you are on different ends of it. Just because for me, he's 2 years, and don't get me wrong, I think Najee's going to have the better year 1 production, and I think Najee's also going to be a really good running back. I think he's going to have multiple RB1 seasons in Pittsburgh, but I think Javante's also going to have multiple RB1 seasons in his career. And again, I think Najee's going to get off to the better start immediately because he's not sharing the backfield like Devante is in his first year. But I just look at Devante, he's 2 years younger. He's in a situation where he won't be maybe the bell cow right away this year because of Melvin Gordon, but he'll have the opportunity probably the second half of this season and entering next year. And I did have him ranked higher, all three of us did, than Najee pre-draft. So I do want to hear your guys' thoughts on who you think. I'll just say the RB1 in rookie drafts.
So I think this segment has basically turned into what I'd consider like the bait, to use Frank's term, the bait segment, where it's we talked about Elijah Mitchell, Michael Carter, Trey Lance. Now we're talking about Najee Harris. Pat Freiermuth, I'm going to exclude for this.
Pat Freiermuth, I agree with you.
Yeah, you better not diss the fucking Muth, JT.
We agree. No, he's
That's my
tight
Muth.
end too.
Yeah, but I think all these guys are the ones that are. I'm also excluding Trey Sermon because I was really high on Trey Sermon. I think people are just starting to put him around where I actually did value him prior to the draft. But where I'm going with this is we're just getting too hyped up on these players and their landing spots, and some of them I just don't think are that great. Where Najee Harris is the guy I've been harping on the whole time. I agree that Devante is the RB. Like I'm firmly standing in the position now. Devante is RB1. As far as 101, I'd probably still take Chase and Pitts over. Devante.
That's why I switched it to fantasy RB1.
Yeah, but as far as RB1's concerned, I just the Broncos traded up to get Javonte Williams. Like Melvin Gordon's the only guy in front of him, and Melvin Gordon's on the last year of his contract. Like I'm not really concerned. I think he's the better prospect in my opinion. So Javante's my RB1.
Do I need to answer this question? Or does every other podcast before this firmly cemented that I still think Devante Williams is the RB1?
Yeah.
Also, what's a standard league? I don't know what that is.
it's from prehistoric times.
In Superflex, Devante is still my running back 1. That was not going to change unless he went in like the 4th round.
Yeah. So moving on, biggest losers as far as the rookies are concerned. I've got a few in mind. So one of my biggest disappointments, someone I was hyping up, was Seth Williams. I was just praying this guy was going to get a 3rd round grade, because I've been trying to emphasize how much that 3rd round, like if you're drafted in a 3rd round, you have the same chance of hitting as like a 2nd round, even 1st round, other than the first like 10 picks or so. But he got drafted in the 6th round. It's just I can't. moving on though, as far as other
Wait, real quick. 2 more
Yeah.
draft winners, real quick.
Okay.
What's his name? Actually, 3. I'm gonna go with 3.
Just toss
Josh Palmer, clear
Yeah.
draft winner there. I think that both like where his draft capital that he got, the scheme fit, and the landing spot, in a good offense tied to Justin Herbert, the role that he should be asked to play, and kind of just everything about it. Like his price is great right now. I think that Josh Palmer's a nice little pickup. Another guy I really liked before the draft, Desmond Fitzpatrick, landing in Tennessee. I think is a very underrated landing spot. Another guy that you can pick up at the very end of your 3rd, early 4th round of drafts. Clear.
I thought you were
turning up
about to say. I thought you were about to still say Rondale Moore. I like.
Well, Rondale Moore I really like, but I think that the landing spot was just like, like a B plus. It wasn't anything crazy. But the last one, the big one for me, is what's his name? Amari Rodgers, because I went from being this is the one player with all this landing spot talk, because I liked Carter and Sermon before the draft. Their valuations really haven't changed for me from like that mid-early second. Amari Rodgers, though, in Green Bay, if Aaron Rodgers is there, is like it really feels like Randall Cobb 2.0, and I do really like his stock and his fit. I think that he's someone that I went from being off the train to now back on the train. Now we can go into more losers.
Okay.
Unless you guys want to touch on one of them.
There were a ton of winners, I thought, from the draft. I think Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Nico Collins are both in situations where they can get on the field immediately.
Okay.
Kind of an empty
Rashad
receiver course. I like Devante Smith's because he's pretty much walks into the building and is the wide receiver 1 on day 1, which is not the case for a lot of rookies. I thought the one interesting thing with this draft was for a lot of the skill players, I didn't think there were a ton of bad landing spots. Like even the one I'm going to say is my bad landing spot isn't really a bad one. I just saw a lot of them ended up in good situations. Like people are kind of criticizing like, oh, Etienne's with James Robinson. I'm not worried about Etienne. They spent a 1st round pick on him. They're going to use him like a 1st round pick, and he's the more talented running back.
Real quick though, one person I'll add, and then we'll just dive right into Etienne. Then the one other guy I'll add is Ramondre Stevenson. He's someone that like I was decently into prior to the draft, but I think again picked up in I think it was the 4th by the Patriots. It definitely gives him more value to me. Overall, though, I'm trying really hard not to overhype guys based on where they've landed. It's difficult at times, but I'm trying to keep myself from hyping them up too much. Then just completely transitioning into what we were talking about, Etienne. I hate this for him. I hate Etienne.
Really?
My thing about it is like, I still think James Robinson's actually like, I know he was undrafted and we've got Urban Meyer, a new coach who doesn't have any ties to James Robinson, but I think James Robinson's still a really good back where Etienne probably could have ended up on most other teams, I feel like, and have been had a better shot.
That's the thing. I don't think he's a winner, because I do agree with you. There were a ton of the landing spots that would have been better. I would have been way happier if he was in like Miami or something, or like Atlanta. But I'm not. I think because people do have the same kind of idea as you, and people are kind of fading him a little bit. I'm not too worried. Because like you mentioned, they have no ties to James Robinson, even though he had a great year last year. And I think it's going to kind of be what you saw in New Orleans with Kamara and Mark Ingram, or Kamara and Latavius Murray, in terms of just Etienne playing that Kamara role.
I don't know. I just have a tough time because I think that while Etienne probably will gain the lead back role and will be the starter, I don't think James Robinson's ever going away. So you're going to have split touches, and then you're going to have to rely on Etienne's receiving work. And Frank was saying earlier, Najee Harris is probably the better receiving back of the two. It kind of further separates Etienne from that cream of the crop kind of landing zone where Javonte is my firm running back 1, and then I still think I have Etienne over Najee Harris, but now it's like super close with RB2 and RB3.
I don't know. I don't think Etienne's stock for me has gone down. I think it's a good system. I didn't view Etienne as a back that could really handle that bell cow-esque workload in terms of just feeding him the ball 20 to 25 times and having success. So splitting carries with another running back, I don't really think is a problem. As long as he's able to get the necessary amount of targets in the passing game, I think that's what matters more for me than the volume of carries. I just need him to get 10 to 13 carries a game with another 6 to 5 catches, that's a very healthy workload, and I'm not sure he's going to get that, but that's what I'm more interested in is in these PPR leagues. Give me all those receiving points. He's got the chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. I actually like the landing spot for Etienne, but I don't think his price has really risen or lowered for me. I think he's still my clear RB3. I think the gap has, risen for me with Najee, but still late first round pick. If I need a running back, I would be pretty happy with any one of the 3 with like a late first round selection.
I just think we can all agree that it's likely that Trevor Lawrence is going to be the day 1 opening starter, right? Like I think you pick him 101, he's going to be
You didn't pick him 1 to be on the bench.
Yeah. So you're putting a lot of faith in that rookie quarterback to feed. There's a lot of mouths on this team, like a lot of offensive players that are looking to get the ball, and I'm just not sure if that target share and carry share is going to be available for Etienne to be like a solid performer that I think Devante will, albeit maybe not this year. I just think Devante has a better chance in the future than Etienne, because you have DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. Laviska Shenault can do a lot of things that, like catching it out, behind the line of scrimmage and stuff, that you kind of expect Etienne to do. You still have James Robinson. You brought in Marvin Jones. Like, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with this team. All right, we can move on though to some other losers. I mean, Frank,
I've got a whole slew of losers,
right.
and
just toss out a bunch. And I'll say what I agree.
This goes to basically what was the depth of this receiver class that just got the floor taken out from under it. The list just goes on. So I'm just going to list them all out: Marquez Stevenson, Cade Johnson, Tamarion Terry, Austin Watkins, Amir Smith-Marset, Myron Mitchell, like you said earlier, Seth Williams, Sage Surratt, Trey Nixon, Trayvon Grimes, Simi Fehoko, Jonathan Adams Jr., Josh Imatorbhebhe, Cornell Powell. Like, there's even more. You can just keep going. None of these guys really got 3rd round, 4th round, even 5th round draft capital, which is a big problem. Guys like Austin Watkins, Tamarion Terry, Cade Johnson especially, were players that looked to be taken late day 2, early day 3, and they were undrafted. So it just took a lot of that great depth that we thought we had at this receiver class completely out from it. These were dudes that looked to be those late 3rd round, early 4th round kind of guys that now you're really even questioning spending a draft pick on.
That's fair. Yeah. I was just going to say, well, I do think their draft capital hurt them. There were 2 names that stuck out that I'm just generally keeping my eye on. I'm keeping my eye on Powell just because it's so cliche, but anytime a receiver is on the Chiefs, I'm just going to have my eye out for them. I'm not going to spend a high pick on them or anything, but it's something that I pay attention to. And
that is the massive bait.
It's not bait if I'm spending. It's not bait if I'm spending like a late 4th on him. Like, or
I guess if you have a roster spot.
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
yeah. All right.
And I thought Trayvon Grimes was interesting just because I think he's gonna make the roster.
The Florida boy.
And that's a Florida Eagle, right?
Yeah, it is a Florida Eagle.
That's the freaking that's the big whammy.
Because my thing with that is this. Rager, out of like the top 3 receivers, Rager has a spot locked up. Devante Smith has a spot locked up. The third spot, hypothetically, all you really need to beat is Travis Fulgham or John Hightower. And I don't really think that's like the apex of competition.
That's fair. I don't know. I'm kind of fading all of those. The only one that I'll consider is Tamora and Terry's.
I'm not drafting any in like the first.
Yeah, I'm not drafting any of those guys at all. The only one I'd consider is Tamora and Terry. That's the one I was higher on than consensus going into the draft. I mean, he's the one that I think fell because of character concerns. Like, he quit on the FSU team. Like, there's no way around it. And
I would quit too.
Yeah, not only did he quit though, like he was supposed to be like preparing for the pro day and whatever, and then he didn't like test that great. But I think, you know, typically the guys that go undrafted that end up performing, like, I'm not going to say all the time, but there's a streak of like players that had character concerns, and they're the ones that actually like fell in the draft and end up actually producing something. So Tamora and Terry is probably the one that I'd be looking at out of those guys. But I agree, Frank. Most they're all.
Do you have anyone who is going to be, we'll say, like a top 2 round in?
Yeah, I've got some. Okay, well, maybe not necessarily top 2, but guys that I thought had very good potential to be in the top 2.
Okay.
And I really like both of these guys. The first one is my dear boy, Kellen Mond, mainly because now I think that his stock in terms of consensus may have rose. But for me,
a little bit.
This was a guy that I legitimately thought could get that very late first round, even like mid first round, second round, like decent second round draft capital. He went in the third. So, like JT kind of alludes to, you're a third round quarterback. It doesn't really matter how much talent you have. The NFL has gotten better with later round quarterbacks, it seems like. Even though I like Kellen Mond and I still am targeting him in a bunch of leagues, I do not have the initial valuation I had on him. The other one is Khalil Herbert. I really was hoping for Khalil Herbert to land early day 3, very late day 2 to a team like the Falcons in that Arthur Smith zone-heavy scheme that he ran with the Titans. I thought it was a really good fit for Khalil Herbert. They had plenty of chances to take Khalil Herbert, and they passed on him every single time. So now he lands up as the Bears' backup running back. That really killed Khalil Herbert for me. He goes from being a potential early third round pick to now a dart throw in like the late third, early fourth, more likely, honestly.
Yeah. My other one loser, I'll fade real quick. And then I guess we could give some more insight, is Tylan Wallace. Tylan Wallace, I forget how you pronounce it.
I don't know if it's actually Thielen, or I'm like 90% sure it's Tylan. But can we just make a pact that you never say Tylan Wallace ever again?
Tylan Wallace. Sure, I corrected myself. We could calm down on that one. We don't need to get on my throat yet. This is a guy that Jake loved. I wish he was on here because he was clowning me for some of my guys going in like the third round.
Both of you deserve to be clowned.
But Tylan Wallace, I can't hear Lewis. You're the one with the clown face. Tylan Wallace he went in the 4th round. As I said, like once you're out of the third round and you're a day 3 prospect, your chances of hitting are a lot less. The only thing that's keeping me from really sending him down my board though is like I'm pretty sure it's medical history that caused him to drop. That's another one of the ones where I'm willing to make like a slight exception and not drop him all the way down to where I think he should be. But Jake's still out here saying like, oh, hot take, I think he'll outproduce Rashad Bateman. Like, no shot, Jake. I'm sorry. No shot.
Okay,
both of you are going to die swinging your sword. I got to say mine. I haven't said mine.
Yeah, say yours.
Okay, so this is one that's bold because I was trying to think of one out of the top prospects, and I don't think any of the top prospects really had a bad one, but this is just the one I'm picking out of the top guys. Because Frank, you listed a bunch of like the lower round guys that I would agree with, especially Khalil Herbert. And I know you guys are going to disagree, and I still believe in his talent. I still like him a lot, but I had to put a ton of disclaimer. I really didn't like Diami Brown's landing spot.
No, okay, I hear Lounis.
In Washington. If you tell me, maybe if they have, I want to see the quarterback situation after Fitzpatrick. but you have two young receivers who are going to be there for a while, and I don't think either one of them are letting up their 1 or 2 spot. I think part of it is just kind of also the respect I have for Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, that's
and
the
Terry
only
McLaurin.
reason. That is not what that is. Your love for Curtis Samuel is the reason why you think it's a bad landing.
Exactly. Spot. Yeah. Curtis Samuel and Diami Brown are completely different wide receivers. Like, kind of targets that they're getting are totally different. Like, I'd be more concerned if I was
different
Antonio.
types. They're different types. I'm saying, do you see Diami Brown becoming overtaking Curtis Samuel as that wide receiver too?
Let me put it like this.
Well, it'll be the outside wide receiver.
If Curtis Samuel is so good, why did the Panthers let him go?
Because they couldn't afford to pay their another top receiver that much money, and Washington paid him a ton.
So they decided that the other guys were more worth it to pay than Curtis Samuel.
Well, I don't think Robbie Anderson's better than Curtis Samuel, and I'm a Temple homer.
They're different guys too.
And again, I'm not talking about body type. Obviously, I mean, Curtis Samuel, you can kind of put all over the field. He was playing on the outside a lot, and if you watch his tape, it was a travesty what Kyle Allen did to him in terms of how many times he missed him deep.
I think,
and I have the tape on that, but
I think Lounis, when we're talking about that, like, I think Diami Brown's not really competing with Curtis Samuel for targets. Like, I think it's Curtis Samuel and Antonio Gibson are going to be the ones that compete, and J.D. McKissick. I think you'll just see J.D. McKissick probably fade away, because there was J.D. McKissick at times. He got 10 targets a game at some points. I don't know what his average was, probably around 6. So, you have that to spread around. You have some targets to take away from Antonio Gibson too, I believe. Plus, you're putting in a gunslinger in Ryan Fitzpatrick instead.
That's what I'm saying. I think people forget how good of a deep route runner Curtis Samuel is, because the past 2 years he hasn't really had a quarterback that likes to sling it like that. I think he's one of the better deep route runners in the NFL. I just think he's someone. Again, they're very different body types of receivers. I'm talking about production. Those yards have to go somewhere in order. Terry McLaurin's the wide receiver 1. Curtis Samuel, I think, is going to be the second most productive. Logan Thomas is going to have some production. I don't think anything crazy, but he's going to get some looks. And Curtis Samuel and McKissick are receiving backs. I love Diami Brown. I think he'll still be decent, but that was not the landing spot I was hoping for. There were a ton of other landing spots I would have liked a lot more than Washington.
I really don't hate the Washington one. I still love Diami Brown there. I don't know if you
I like him a lot. I'm just saying there were so many other teams I would have liked way more. Washington, I was like, eh.
Yeah, I think there's other teams I would have liked a lot more. Maybe it bumps his stock down a little bit, but I think for his ADP right now, Diami Brown is an unbelievably good buy.
I agree.
What's his ADP at right now?
Late second.
Late second.
Oh.
I saw one draft he went 308. I don't think that's where he's actually.
And I still think in a 1-for-1 deal, I would rather have Diami Brown than Curtis Samuel.
I agree.
I really don't think it's that ridiculous of a take.
That's where I disagree with. I really do think Curtis Samuel hasn't been able to show his full skill set yet, just because of his quarterback play the last 3 years, honestly.
Okay, Loon. Okay.
We'll see.
That's what I said about DJ Moore, and you guys trashed me for that.
I didn't trash you for the DJ Moore thing.
They're on the same fucking team.
Yeah.
and one produced and one, not that he didn't produce, it's just
didn't produce.
Had over 1,000 total yards last year, scrimmage yards.
That's fair. I'm not too concerned about Diami Brown. I don't know how much more I could really say about it, but let's get into some more. We're going to talk about the repricing, the obvious winners and losers. And we just talked about one of those teams, Atlanta. We've got Mike Davis. I think everyone thought Atlanta was drafting a running back at some point. Devante Williams was definitely a potential one that I thought a lot of people saw going there. Even Michael Carter I could have seen going there, but no, they just are like, we're okay. We'll sign one undrafted, but it seems like it's Mike Davis's spot to lose. So are you guys going out and buying Mike Davis? What's the price of Mike Davis?
Dude, I have no fucking idea.
I think I put in the chat yesterday. I'd probably have him around a mid-second, and I think it only makes sense for a contender to buy him, where you're like, damn, I could just one more RB2 would do my team wonders in terms of a championship push. I don't see anyone else. If I'm not a contender, I'm selling him right now. Right now, like before they even maybe add anyone in camp, add one of just like the remaining free agent running backs. Like I'd be looking to sell him right now for kind of just any second.
The thing is, though, is like when you think about it, like think about every single scenario your team could be in. Are you ever paying 206 for him?
Probably not.
If you're maybe not 206, but I could see like I don't need running backs, but if I really needed one running back for this season, especially if like week 1 or something, one of my guys got hurt, would I send over like a 207, 208 for Mike Davis?
Yeah, I think
might.
208, 209 is around his value, I would say. 208 is like or maybe 207, like you said, where kind of like when you're in that second pickings of the receivers and probably where Sermon and Michael Carter are gone, I think that's where you have Mike Davis around. My fear for Mike Davis is that this really feels like the Falcons are going to bring in another vet like a Gurley or a Le'Veon Bell or whoever that has like.
If you have him and you're not a contender, you should sell him right now.
Yeah, so that's my fear. What were you going to say, JT?
I was just thinking, so draft-wise running backs, like I probably had, if you put Mike Davis in this class, I was comparing him, I have him above Ramondre Stevenson, but under like Trey Sermon and Michael Carter. So he probably is worth around like that 206 range. I don't know if you could get really people to pay that, but if I had Mike Davis and you can guarantee me Diami Brown, I'm smashing that deal. Like seeing Mike Davis, like that's like pick 210, pick 211, 212. So I'd much rather do that. Moving on though to the other running back, who was a big winner. That's Myles Gaskin. Another team, the Dolphins, they got jumped. We thought they were going to get we thought Javonte Williams was going to end up there. Nope, the Broncos jumped them and took Javonte Williams. So Myles Gaskin, another player who didn't really get any running backs added to the team. Same deal as Mike Davis?
No, I think I value Gaskin a little bit higher.
Oh.
I don't love it, but I think that this is the guy I think that if I really needed a running back that I would be willing to spend like a 205 on. Like if I'm sitting there at 205 and I desperately needed a running back and I'm choosing between Davis and Gaskin, man, I really hate both of them. Like paying 205 for him, but I think I would choose Gaskin if like Sermon and Carter both went in my rookie draft before 205 and I had a 205.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's kind of the same thing where Gaskin I'd probably have over, this might be a hot take, but I'd have Gaskin over Michael Carter, but below Trey Sermon.
That's completely fair. I think the one thing with Gaskin that I respect is that if the Dolphins bring in a running back, I still think Gaskin has an outside shot of being relevant. Whereas Mike Davis, it's like, you, God forbid, an undrafted free agent or they bring in a vet. It's like, I feel like that kills him.
Yeah, well, there is Javian Hawkins there now. The thing about them too, though, is like Myles Gaskin is still on the same team. Like Mike Davis is going to a completely new team. We don't know how he's actually gonna fit there. Like Myles Gaskin, we saw what he was able to do.
The argument I will bring up Mike Davis in the Mike Davis versus Myles Gaskin, and I think I do value Myles Gaskin a little bit more because I think Frank's right. He could still have a third down running back role. Mike Davis, that offense is going to be scoring a ton with Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Kyle Pitts. Even if they trade Julio, I still think it's going to be a high scoring offense. There's going to be a ton of like goal line touchdowns for Mike Davis. Like I would, if he's the starter for the year, I'd say he gets double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it took touchdowns to keep Todd Gurley relevant last year. So
Frank, you look shocked.
It's just weird to hear Falcons and touchdowns in the same sentence. Like,
it's a new.
I
It's
feel
a
like
new
you don't know
era.
what the fuck you're gonna get out of the Falcons. You
The
can
poor
see the best
Falcons.
offense of
Listen,
all time, or you can
I
see a
promise
team
you.
that can't
I
get a
promise
first
you.
down.
I promise you. You're struggling in the red zone. Just find where Kyle Pitts is on the field and just throw it up.
Yeah. That's my thing. Is that I'm not giving the ball to Mike Davis. I'm giving it to Kyle Pitts.
He might get tackled at the 1. Maybe he gets out of bounds at the 1-yard line.
All right, completely different end of the spectrum though. We have my guy, the one that Frank is not on, Deandre Swift. I think he was a big winner because they took Jamar Jefferson in the 7th, but it's 7th round running back. They got Penei Sewell at pick 7, and to be honest, I did not expect Sewell to be there at 7. Again, the top tackle at pick 7 to bolster a line. I think he's a solid winner from this draft. One that's probably not getting talked about a whole lot. What do you guys think?
I definitely do think it helps him. The fact that they didn't bring another back. With him, it's going to be interesting to see how the split is between him and Jamal Williams. Even though I obviously expect Swift to be like the main guy, I think he's going to be a top 15 running back production-wise next year. I want to see what that split does look like because depending on that could decide where in that top 15 he is. But I do agree. They didn't bring in anyone else. It's not like they're brought in a whole ton of receivers to help the passing game a ton. So, and I like that for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I see he's like starting to creep into like the mid-second round in some rookie drafts. So I'd agree. Swift is a winner. Just because Sewell being there at what they pick 6, 7? No, 7. Yeah, 7. Getting him at 7 is crazy. He's normally a top 3 pick in most drafts, and they addressed both their offensive and defensive line a lot throughout the draft. So I'd agree. I like that for Swift, and they're not like they added a ton of receivers. So I think he's going to get a ton of catches too, which I think is going to be kind of like a big chunk of his fantasy production is going to be in the receiving game.
All right.
Frank, you on the Swift as a winner bandwagon?
If you're expecting me to say that Swift is a winner,
I was
probably
not.
look somewhere else.
I was not. Hate has no home here, Frank, in this DeAndre Swift house.
Hey, you're the king of hate. You're the biggest hater on this.
I just said in the DeAndre Swift house.
Oh, in the DeAndre Swift house. Okay.
In the Kadarius Toney house, that's where hate lives.
It's a mansion. It's a mansion.
Moving on.
It's a mansion.
So we kind of just lumped this all together, but teams with new quarterbacks. We have the Jaguars obviously getting Trey Lawrence as was expected. Zach Wilson to the Jets also expected. Trey Lance going to the 49ers. I think that's kind of where the big boost really start to see, because I don't think Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel owners would have necessarily loved getting Mac Jones as their quarterback, but now you have Trey Lance as your quarterback. While a more raw quarterback, definitely someone that could unlock a new portion of this offense, I feel like. Also, you've got Justin Fields going to the Bears, a team that I don't think most people thought would be able to reach up and get Justin Fields, but they did. And then you've got Mac Jones to the Patriots, and no one ever knows what the Patriots are going to do in the draft, but actually getting a quarterback is in the first round is something we have not seen. So just breaking it down, who do you guys think get the biggest boost? I'd have to imagine the Jaguars. Yeah, I have to imagine the Jaguars guys already kind of got their boost like as soon as you knew the Jags were the first pick.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Bears guys. This is gonna be the best quarterback they've had in 3 years. Especially for Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney. And Darnell Mooney's going to be tied now. I don't know what happens with Allen Robinson after this season. I think there's a chance if Fields plays well that he's like, I want to stay here with this rookie quarterback. But definitely for Mooney, he's going to be with Fields now for a couple years and be able to develop a chemistry where if Allen Robinson leaves, he'll already have that chemistry with Fields and Mooney can step into that wide receiver 1 spot with him. So I like Fields the most in terms of just benefiting the other fantasy players around him.
How about you, Frank?
I actually do like that one for Mooney, especially. I think Allen Robinson, it really doesn't do much. But with Mooney, I think the big difference you're going to get is that Justin Fields has a deadly accurate deep ball. as long as they can protect Justin Fields, he should be able to get that hookup way more consistent with Mooney than you saw with Nick Foles or the MVP Mitchell Trubisky. I think the big one for me, though, is the Patriots guys, because what we saw from Cam Newton last year, he would have wide open players 15, 20 yards down the field, and you'd see balls end up in the dirt. I also think that they're almost just a winner now that COVID shouldn't be as much of a thing, because I actually do think that Cam Newton was heavily impacted by COVID. So, like, regardless, the Patriots receivers, it really feels like either I'm going to get Mac Jones, who, from what I saw on tape, is pretty accurate, or I'm going to get a good Cam Newton, which is completely fine as well. So I think that you kind of have the chance for one of those two. So I like it a lot more for the Patriots receivers.
I'm very intrigued about the Patriots tight ends. I don't know what to. I can't make any sense of them because you went from no tight, like, I can't even tell you who the top one was.
They didn't really draft
big
receivers. Do you like Trey Nixon?
He's okay. He's just a late round pick. I don't think he'll ever really amount to much. The undrafted guys ended up. Yeah. Shut up. I hate you.
That word for word.
The undrafted guys, I can't get over you, Lounis. The undrafted guys on the Patriots tend to do well, better than like the late round guys. But going back to the tight ends, like we went from Devin Asiasi and I don't know, Dalton Keene and Izzo being your tight end group to now you have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. And we have Cam Newton, who did have a rapport with Greg Olsen. So Greg Olsen was fantasy relevant with Cam. Cam's a completely, like he doesn't throw the ball nearly as much. So are those guys going to be relevant with Cam? Then Mac Jones is coming in. We didn't really see a whole lot of Mac Jones throwing at the tight end either. Like, is he going to in the NFL? Who knows? Like these are two guys that are like complete wild cards to me. And I think they have a chance to either really gain or really lose a lot of dynasty value from this season.
Dude, I don't know what to think for the Patriots tight ends either. It's just a crapshoot.
I mean, to be fair for Mac Jones in terms of just throwing time, it's not like he had an elite one at Bama. He wasn't there when OJ Howard was there, and their offensive scheme, like, because they were just always stacked at receiver. They didn't need to. But I do agree. Though actually they might get into the 200 passing yards per game this year. But
it's a low bar to set.
I mean, did they have it last year?
Average, I think so.
Per game.
There was a couple of under 100-yard games, so
yeah,
it's close.
So no, I do agree. That's going to be a big boost. And Cam, like, now fully recovered from COVID, because I do think that had an effect. We've seen it also in the NBA this year too. How much I don't think we realized during the NFL season how much it would have an effect on athletes until we've also seen it now with like kind of the NBA. Also, like we see Jason Tatum, he's like a 22-year-old star. 2 months after catching COVID, he still has to use an inhaler throughout the games now, which he never did before. So
yeah, there's Raquel Armstead was knocked out like the whole year.
The entire year, yeah. So I feel like when it was still new, we didn't know how much of it, even though like we expected them when they were back, like, oh, okay, they're back, they're fine. Like it's still lasting impact. So I think Cam's gonna be better next year also.
Yeah. Toss up to me. I don't know what to expect. All right, last winner. This is someone that Lounis threw on our list. We've got Jalen Hurts as the winner. Lounis, you want to explain to us why Jalen Hurts is your draft winner?
So the Eagles did what, coming into the draft, I've been saying, like, even though they may like him, I don't know if they like Hurts enough to be able to pass on Fields at 12. And that's exactly what they did. Well, I mean, not that they passed on Fields at 12, but they were at 10 and they could have taken Fields if they wanted to. But they decided not to. They decided to get him a number one receiver, and they didn't draft a quarterback at any point. They just in the first 2 rounds, they got him a number one receiver and a Landon Dickerson, who is one of the best interior linemen in this draft. So I just think it's a big win for him. He's going to have the opportunity to do anything. I mean, to be like the full-time starter this year without worrying. And now I do think he does have to prove something this year because the Eagles are in a position where they could have 3 first-round picks next year where it's like, hey, if Jalen Hurts doesn't do well, we can go and either trade for whichever quarterback is asking out, or we can move up in the draft for one of the top QBs next year. But I think from right now, based off that last draft, passing on Justin Fields, I thought was like a big deal. And then just going and getting him a number 1 receiver, I would consider him a winner from this draft.
You know how I feel about Devante Smith.
Well, yeah, I know you don't, but it's like what they did do, like in terms of just position, passing on Fields. I was surprised that they did. I was like, damn, I know they weren't aiming for a QB, but it came down to it. It's hard to pass on Justin Fields.
I feel like Jalen Hurts is more of like an off-season winner than
just a draft winner.
Like if you were a Justin Fields owner in the beginning of the offseason, especially with all the Carson Wentz drama, you were very skeptical. You had no idea what to think. And now look how far you've come. And you've gotten to the point where the Eagles spend their top 2 draft picks on 2 great, at least in my opinion, maybe not JT's, but 2 first-round, really good, I think top 20, the both of them, offensive talents in the draft. I think it's great for Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, I like this as a draft winner. It's just now he's got to play well, right? It's still a risk, but you've at least given him a platform much better than what you had last year.
Yeah, I'm worried about Jalen Hurts, guys. I'm gonna say it. I just think we're putting a lot of stock into a few games where you only had one really good game against the Cardinals. Like his game against the Saints, it just seemed like they didn't even prepare for him. They didn't expect anything from him, and I don't know. I'm worried about Jalen Hurts. That's all.
I am a little bit as well. I just want to see development. But one thing that has to be said is that his legs were a huge threat, and teams, not that they necessarily didn't see that, but when they tried to rush extra guys than the Eagles had blocking, Jalen Hurts was much more efficient at getting the ball out of his hands and picking the right matchup. And when they only rushed 4 or 5, and even when you would get pressure on a good matchup, Jalen Hurts was able to evade it way better and way more comfortably than Carson Wentz, which just gave him a huge edge.
Yeah, and I think just the general situation around the Eagles offense last year was toxic. The entire offensive line was like musical chairs. It was just like plugging in guys. No one knew what the fuck they were doing. Missing blocks.
Oh my God, it was terrible. Yeah, and the running backs were terrible too.
The running backs couldn't pick up blitz protections, especially Miles Sanders can, but he was injured for a decent portion of last year. You had receivers running into each other. You had Zach Ertz. I don't know what happened to him. I really don't know what happened.
Surprised he didn't get traded.
Same.
Surprised he was not traded.
Apparently, the asking price was too high. I still would not be surprised if he's traded by and before the season starts for a pick next year.
Where do you think he goes? Jacksonville, maybe. I thought Jacksonville was going to end up with a tight end. I don't think they did. And
I could see Jacksonville for maybe a 4th next year or a 5th
maybe
next
year.
Good
pickup for Jackson. I think Jacksonville's a lot closer than people are giving him credit for right now. It's just mainly because they're in a weak division, but that's a different story. Actually, we're going to talk about a guy from Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
Yeah. So we kind of covered him already, but I think you and I, Frank, are kind of on the same page with him. James Robinson, we're talking biggest losers now. We switched topics, biggest losers from the draft. James Robinson's obviously probably the guy at the top of the list, right? He was an undrafted free agent who went off. He was a top 5 running back fantasy-wise. Then all of a sudden, the Jags draft Travis Etienne in the first round. And so his value just tanks. But I think Frank and I are on the same page where I don't think this is as bad for James Robinson as people think.
Yeah. Well, the big issue with it is that James Robinson is just not going to get that huge volume workload, so it does cap its upside. But in terms of being someone that can be an RB2 or a good flex player, yeah, me and JT completely agree that you shouldn't be panicking if you're a James Robinson owner. Yeah, I think we all knew, and it was priced in, that he was not a true stable RB1, right? But when you look at his value, he was valued at RB17. So it's not like even if you traded for James Robinson, if you were at least a somewhat savvy owner, you wouldn't paying an RB1 price. Most of the time you picked him up off waivers and were like, well, I'm never going to get the value for what he adds to my team. So if you have him as like your third running back or your fourth running back that he just kind of put you over the edge, I'm not panic selling him or saying, "Oh my God, he's freaking done. The guy's dead." Like, it definitely his upside is capped, and he's going to be a lot more volatile. But I still think that there is a realistic shot with the offense that Bevel and Urban Meyer are going to run in Jacksonville that he's a solid RB2.
Yeah, I have like I'm gonna try and say this. Like I think I'd still rather have him than Michael Carter, which is like another probably hot take. Michael Carter's going like 2-1, 2-2, 2-3. I get that he's probably got the easier path to carries because there's no one there. Like Ty Johnson might be the starting running back for them right now. But James Robinson, we've already seen it from him, albeit he had to have like one more, kind of be near the top of the league in carries. But James Robinson showed that he could be a very, very good running back when he was given the ball on a team that didn't have a lot of offense going for them. So, which is rare. It's rare to see bad teams have good fantasy running backs. So I just can't knock him down that low. I mean, I'd still take Najee Harris over James Robinson. But after those three running backs, like Trey Sermon,
I'd rather own Trey Sermon.
That's a toss-up for me. I have Trey Sermon ranked above Michael Carter. I don't think that's consensus currently. That's where it gets to be a toss-up. But like, if I'm a James Robinson owner, I'm not giving up anything. I'm not giving him up for anything less than a late first, early second. And I don't think you're getting that price, especially after what just happened.
Well, JT, you're right though. In terms of comparing him to Trey Sermon, you're not buying Trey Sermon over James Robinson because you think that. At least I don't think you should be buying Trey Sermon because you think his situation for a boatload of carries is better. I think you're buying Trey Sermon just because you think he's a better prospect. I think that's the fair valuation. If you're buying Trey Sermon in the early second round because you think that Trey Sermon's going to be the next Hall of Fame running back for the 49ers, I think that's stupid. This is a coach and a system that chews up and spits out running backs. They play the hot hand. And this is a guy that while he has like the Trey Sermon and James Robinson, you're praying for the same situation to happen. And I think it's equally as likely, and maybe probably more likely with James Robinson because there's not 18,000 running backs on the team. You're praying for them to be in a committee back where there's two guys that are the main fantasy running backs, and you are the beneficiary of one of them. And people completely underrate how valuable someone like a Tevin Coleman was back in the day, where he was, he didn't have the upside of being able to score 25 points. But in your flex spot, he was a consistent 10 to 13 to 14 points, somewhere between 9 to 14 points every week. What better flex player is there? Yeah, he's not the RB1 anymore, but that still doesn't mean for an early second round pick, he can't be a phenomenal pickup because you could easily get James Robinson in a ton of leagues for that price right now.
But here's the thing for that. Here's the thing for that price, you can probably get with the actual draft pick, Trey Sermon. Are you saying you're taking Robinson over Sermon?
I'm saying that it should be a lot closer than people are acting right now. Dude, you could probably – this is definitely league dependent, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could pick up James Robinson for a mid-second right now. Dude, I'm seeing Chuba Hubbard go in the late and mid-second in some drafts. That's freaking ridiculous. Come on. I'd much rather have James Robinson than Hubbard right now.
Real quick, rapid fire. I'm looking at keep trade cut. Would you rather have Chase Edmonds or James Robinson?
James Robinson.
That's what.
And I'm someone who's higher. And I'm someone who's higher on Chase Edmonds than a lot of people. It's still James Robinson.
They're ranked right next to each other on keep trade cut, which is insane to me. You know what? That already proved my point. I don't need to beat this over the head. He's worth more than Chase Edmonds. All right, moving on. Another one that I think me and Lounis are on the same page. I'm not sure if Frank is. The Bengals wide receivers, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, are probably considered big losers because the Bengals went and drafted Jamar Chase. I don't like. Maybe Tyler Boyd is going to be a loser. I'm still buying T. Higgins.
I completely agree. I actually think now is a good time to buy T. Higgins. With people panicking about Chase, I agree. Tyler Boyd is going to take a hit, but there's still targets to go around. I think Joe Burrow, it's a shame he didn't get to finish his rookie season. He's going to be someone who, in this league when healthy, passes for a shit ton of yards every year. I feel like people, just because he got hurt, Herbert was kind of like the star. People forgot how good Joe Burrow is. Joe Burrow can support multiple wide receivers fantasy-wise. So Tyler Boyd, I think, is more of the loser, but I still fully believe in T. Higgins, even though Chase, I think, is a phenomenal prospect. And Chase will become the wide receiver one for that team. Don't get it wrong. Chase, maybe not right away. I don't know how much time it's going to take, but Chase is a generational prospect. But I still like Higgins. Especially, I'm not going to defend Boyd as much, but I still like T. Higgins a lot.
What do you think, Frank?
How do you feel, Frank?
I actually do think that every single one of these receivers takes a hit in the short term, not the long term, because it's a weird scenario where I like the talent of Boyd, Higgins, and obviously Jamar Chase. I think that all three of these guys are good NFL caliber receivers. But am I going to go out and pay the wide receiver one price for T. Higgins right now?
I think right now is the lowest
T. Higgins
a
wide receiver one.
I think right now is the lowest his price is going to be.
On Keep Trade Cut, he's considered wide receiver 18. He's in between Allen Robinson and Jalen Waddle.
Is that you have to pay. Here's the thing. I think most competent owners are charging a higher price for T. Higgins than they are for Allen Robinson. If you were to go across all your leagues, regardless of what the trade calculators say, I think that you just generally have to give up more for T. Higgins than Allen Robinson, because T. Higgins, even with, because this is what I might be wrong, but I'm trying to gauge the consensus here. I feel like the consensus is that T. Higgins is chilling. It's Tyler Boyd that is the one that's really hit here, and that his value has now gone down, because he was one of those guys that was always worth a first, but you could never get it. Now I think he's gone from, okay, well, now you're never really getting a first for him as long as he's on the Bengals. No. I don't think I'm buying any of these receivers necessarily, but I'm also not selling them, and I'm not shying away from Jamar Chase. I just still don't believe in the Bengals coaching staff. I think that that's my biggest reserve, is that I don't like what's their coach's name again? Is it Zach Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like Taylor. I still don't like their offensive line. So I'm not buying these players. But I'm not panicking at the same time.
I will say once again, AJ Green, 104 targets last season.
Okay, yeah, but half of that was in the first 6 weeks of the season.
Still 104 targets.
I guess that's when Burrow was playing, but
yeah. Which is crazy. He only had 47 catches on those 104 targets.
Yikes, AJ Green.
No, I'm not saying that I don't like T. Higgins, but I think his ceiling is, you're paying for more of his ceiling price than you are for his realistic price. I don't think it's terribly unrealistic for T. Higgins to finish as wide receiver 15. It's just you have to pay for that. It's not a great value deal necessarily. You're paying for how he's a young stud. If you're a contender, kind of like what I was saying with Allen Robinson, I think you'd have a much better time paying for an Allen Robinson as a contender than you would be paying for T. Higgins as a contender.
That's a good question. They're close. It depends how big the price difference is. What would be the price difference between them two?
I mean, if you were to assign a draft pick, I think T. Higgins, the lowest you're giving him up for is a 106 or a 107 this year. And even that, T. Higgins owners might decline. Allen Robinson, there's no shot that you are giving up a 106 or a 107 for an Allen Robinson. It's definitely more in that late first territory. I think that's the difference that won't show up on the trade calculators.
It's possible. I don't know though. You're talking Allen Robinson has a new quarterback. I think it's close. I think if I
Allen Robinson's price should not go up because of Justin Fields. That is ridiculous. That is super reactionary.
I think the
perceived price of his
same thing. Why I feel like T. Higgins' perceived value is getting lower.
And I think there's some logic to it. I don't agree as much as some people are going to say, but like the rookie QB is going to be targeting the reliable number one big bodied receiver a shit ton.
Yeah, but I don't know, where is his room for like. How is he going to get crazy better than what he's already been doing? I don't understand.
I just think the offense
he was already a wide receiver one. Like what? You expect a rookie Justin Fields that might not even start to add 500 to 1,000 yards of offense? He'd have to have a better season than Justin Herbert for that to happen.
I don't think the yards and catches go up too much. I think the touchdowns is what has the potential to go up if it's just generally a better offense that scores more.
I'm not buying that.
Yeah, whatever. We'll just move on. It's going to be one to look out for, though. Couple more just to wrap things up. This was one that I put on here. I don't know if you guys necessarily agree, but I think the Dolphins' offense, like other than Tua and Gaskins, are losing. So Mike Gesicki, Devante Parker, Preston Williams. I think the main loser out of these is Mike Gesicki, actually, because he's the one that really benefited when anyone was hurt on the team. Like when Preston Williams was hurt, he did better. When Devante Parker was hurt, he did better. Now you're bringing in Jalen Waddle, and you're also bringing in Hunter Long, who not that I necessarily think is going to take away much from Mike Gesicki. Like he's still a third-round pick. Like he tells you what the team really thinks about Gesicki. Like they're looking to bring in another tight end.
He's fool's gold.
Hunter Long?
No, Gesicki's fool's gold.
Both of them are.
If you believe in Hunter Long, you're a fool.
The fact that Gesicki could only ever produce when Devante Smith is out, like, come on,
Devante
and then
Parker, yeah.
I said Devante Parker, and you even forgot one. Not only did they draft a tight end and bring in Waddle, they brought in Will Fuller.
Oh, true, yeah.
That's even another
Will
receiver.
Fuller, I think, yeah.
I don't think any of those three guys are going to be the top two in receiving options once Fuller serves his it's a 4-game suspension this year, right?
I think he only has one game this season. No?
He only has one?
Okay,
well,
he
either way.
3 and then has one this year.
Whenever he comes back.
My thing with this offense is that Devante Parker and Gesicki, I mean, it's priced in what has happened to them. They were never consistent to begin with. So it's not like if you owned one of these guys, you're really in the dumpster. It's like the writing was already on the wall a little bit. Probably you lost a lot more value on Gesicki than you did Devante Parker. I guess he lost value on both of them. Now I'm thinking about it a little more, but I think that you just continued to lose that consistency. But I will say the thing is I saw on tape is that Devante Parker and Gesicki were easily the most dynamic players in that offense. And I don't think that just because they brought in these options that they won't all of a sudden not be dynamic options. You just further cements the inconsistencies of them. The thing I will say is that this is the nail in the coffin for Preston Williams. Preston Williams he had 4 games that he played really well in, and that has carried his value ever since. He's like Donta Foreman to a certain extent. He had like a good preseason game, and he was big. And people were like, holy shit, this guy's legit. What a steal in the third round.
He was solid his rookie year before he got hurt.
That's still why I want to believe in
season.
Still why I want to believe in Jalen Hurts. He had like 3 touchdowns in the preseason game.
So it's like,
no, but I'm saying at least for Preston, it was regular season games.
He never finished above wide receiver 79 in PPR. He was never a hit. People just wanted him to be a hit because they drafted him, and they talked themselves into him being a hit. Don't give me that bullshit that he was a great pick or any of that. He's never added to anyone's fantasy team ever. He's a jag.
I thought before he got injured his rookie year he wasn't bad, and like he played half a season that year.
Dude, he had like the same amount of points as a Michael Pittman. And are we out here screaming that Michael Pittman had a great rookie year last year? See, that's the difference. He is and has been a jag.
All right. I think this should be our last one. We'll wrap it up after. Two that we had underneath that I just want to get real quick mentions in: Broncos offense and Sterling Shepard. I think kind of self-explanatory. So Sterling Shepard probably odd man out at this point. Broncos offense, they ain't draft quarterback. The last guy that I really want to talk about though was Hollywood Brown. I like Hollywood Brown. I still kind of do, but my thing is, if it was just Rashad Bateman, okay, they brought in that alpha kind of wide receiver, it's fine. But then they doubled down and got Tylan Wallace in the fourth round. So bringing in 2 wide receivers from the same draft and in 4 of your top picks, like I don't know. I struggle to see how I think this offense is going to be revamped and rechanged and retooled for Lamar Jackson to throw the ball more, and there will be more targets. But now we have a lot more mouths to feed, and Willie Snead and Miles Boykin aren't your competition for targets. Now it's Rashad Bateman and Tylan Wallace. Like they're very different wide receivers. Anything you guys got to say about that one?
I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority. Hold on, Lounis. I'm going here because I love Hollywood. Maybe I'm in the minority. I actually thought Hollywood Brown was a draft winner. I thought that getting Bateman was exactly what Hollywood Brown needed to be more of a threat on the field. Now it makes it tougher for defenses to kind of hang a safety over the top, because you could reliably go one-on-one with a safety like an angel safety way over the top when the threats are Willie Snead and Miles Boykin. Now it's like, okay, Rashad Bateman is a legitimate threat in one-on-one coverage. Mark Andrews is still there. You add Tylan Wallace, a good 50-50 ball winner. So I think that it helps Hollywood Brown more than it hurts.
I'm kind of in between. Because the point I was going to say is, yes, it does help in terms of drawing a lot of coverage's attention off him. It just once again comes down to can the Baltimore offense support multiple fantasy wide receivers successfully? And it would have to prove it to me. I don't think it's out of question. Like I said, it just hasn't been done yet. Because Hollywood Brown was the number 1 receiver for 2 years. Well, mostly just last year. He was like, okay. He started to come on towards the end, but no one else. I know there wasn't a lot of talent besides him, but there's still Mark Andrews is there, then Hollywood, then Tylan Wallace, and then
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah. Sammy Watkins, and now Bateman. I feel like, I don't know, it's tough. Like I'm not completely fading Hollywood, but I don't think he's gonna have like the season next year that people thought he was gonna have, like the end of last regular season.
I think they signed Sammy Watkins to get the playbook from Andy Reid.
Maybe. Here's the thing with Hollywood. Hollywood's gonna be another one of those players that's more valuable in real life than he is in fantasy, because just being able to have that speed threat.
It was interesting. Last thing, I think we should end it here. But I was checking the keep trade cuts evaluation of Hollywood Brown. It's interesting to see, like, he actually really dropped value somehow from March 17th to March 20th, which I have to imagine was free agency and getting Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins isn't making me give shit. Like
that's the crazy part to me. He lost more value from them signing Sammy Watkins than them drafting 2 wide receivers, actually.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, that's kind of funny to me, actually.
That's crazy.
All right, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you everyone for listening. Thanks to everyone for watching. If you're in stream, thanks for hanging out with us in stream too. That's it. Episode 35 in the books. Thank you, everyone.
Subscribe.
Peace.